Greetings. How's everyone doing? We are in the middle of a hot summer. Hope everyone is have chance to take advantage of all these instructors' experience, skill, knowledge, and wisdoms. Continue your training, even at this time of pandemic. Okay, I want to quickly review what we covered in the past. Then, of course, every section we will cover something new. So, okay, based on our Wing Chun or Shaolin Wing Chun, okay, Wing Chun coming from the Shaolin Temple, this too does have its legend and symbols, okay, called white tiger, green dragons, okay? So this is, as I explained before, okay, my workshop or my seminar, it always consists of lecture, which is the green dragon. That is the information, that is the knowledge, that is your understanding, okay? And then the tiger is the physical, Kung Fu or any other skill sets, okay, require actual action and experience. You can't just sit there and watch or just sit there and listen or read a book on Kung Fu. You have to have action. So the action give you experience give you the realities. Okay, so when you have the tiger and dragon, simply means that, okay, my experience and my understanding, my intellect ultimately guides me towards the journey of the Kung Fu. We as instructors or Sifu is the pointing fingers from the Shaolin Temple, you know, the fingers pointing to the moon, as Bruce Lee said, okay? So with that said, a quick lecture on what we're gonna cover today. Now, so far, I didn't cover like the forms of Wing Chun or some of the fundamental, okay? Normally, when you start out any martial art, you do basic stances, basic body methods, footwork, and then you learn forms, Tao Lu, okay? So because that gives you the mechanics and introduction of techniques, okay? So let's talk about those two things. Remember, okay, learning a technique like a vertical punch would cover like a Tan Sao, okay, like Biu Sao and Pak Sao. Those are techniques. It's kind of like in self-defense, you're gonna go buy a knife, buy a gun, or buy a mace, right? So whatever those are just tools. So you don't want to be a collector of tools, okay? For example, if you have one gun, but you don't go out and shoot, and you go out and buy a second gun, maybe you tell people you have 10 guns, but you have no shooting skill. So having a lot of technique, it gives you a sense of completing the system, and it's art. So you want to finish the art form. And most of the traditional martial art Kung Fu have plenty of technique to show you. But if you really want to learn how to apply it and get good with it, you take the technique and then you start going to the next layer, which is the mechanics. Okay? So if you punch with like this, I already expressed, the wrists are bent. So if you punch like this, even though it's the vertical punch, right? But the mechanics is wrong. So therefore, makes a bad technique. Okay? So there are certain guides that tells you what's a good techniques. It is based on mechanics. And mechanics give you the shape and forms for applications. Okay, so it's not like, okay, well, you know, I like the shape of a box. So I'm gonna design a sports car look like a box. Well, it doesn't work like that. Okay, so if you're gonna design a sports car, it has to be aerodynamic because it's for speed. So you say, I like the box. So then you're not gonna have the sports car. So it's not what you prefer, what you like. It has to be based on shapes that give you the functions, which is the mechanics, okay? So certain mechanics serve certain purpose, and that purpose is the why, okay? And that is the concept. So in Wing Chun Sealing Tao, in the beginning, okay, the form that you learn is called little ideas from the beginning. So little ideas from the beginning, the fact that there is ideas you have to know, which is the concept that guides the art, okay? Little means you start small step, but little also means compact and efficiency. of what Wing Chun is all about, okay? So rather than, you want power, so you do a big motion like that, well, that gives you power. But in reality, okay, it takes too much time, too much space, too much energy. So under real combat condition, someone with more efficiency is going to be able to overcome your technique. So it's not the art, right? It is the person that is executing the techniques with efficiency that makes it work. So every time you learn something, you do it from gross motor skill, eventually refinements from gross motor skill to fine motor skill, and ultimately you reach the level of more efficiency. So the concept is the same, okay? So as you progress in any art form, you need to go deep into the concept, understanding really what is we call Chun, or the theory behind the art, okay? Tai Chi is based on yin and yang, right? You can't just like go hard because that's all yang. Then you can't just go yin, then it's all soft, okay? So it's yin and yang. So when the guy is efficiency of the human skeleton. So anything that we do, but it takes too much time, too much space, too much energy, then most likely you are outside of that box of Wing Chun, or outside of that boundary of what we call efficiency. So therefore, it belongs to something else. I mean, if you do a jump spinning kick, it can knock people out and finish the fight. But you got to be able to pull it off with perfect timing, because it takes a big movements, a lot of energy, and probably it's going to, require just that much more athletic ability. Okay, so if you take a lot of time, space, energy to do something, it's probably outside the efficiency. Still effective. So you have something that's not effective because wrong place, wrong time, wrong energy. Then you have something that's effective, right time, right space, right energy. And then you have something that's more high level, which is less time, less space, less energy to accomplish the same thing. Okay? So in a nutshell, if I ask you what is Wing Chun? Efficiency. So therefore, you can learn any martial art and still be able to adapt the movements of Wing Chun, because Wing Chun give you that understanding of efficiency for the human skeleton. Okay? So that is one of the key concepts, okay? So I want to quickly review the other concept that I covered real quick. Okay, today my assistant there's a Meng, he's my third son. You already probably, if you've seen all my series, okay, you met Vincent, my oldest son, my second one, Spencer, and Garrison's my third son. I also studied Wing Chun. He's also youth national team gold medalist in Sanda, Wushu Federation. Okay? So all our kids compete and so forth. So my other two kids, they're on vacation. So my help. Okay, so a quick review again. So again, you need to learn how to engage your opponents in long range, because that's when you're out to fighting. So there's many effective systems out there, right? Long range. Right? So right now my hand cannot touch you, but I know my back foot is in my range. This is called, in traditional Shaolin Wing Chun, we call this heaven space. You move a half sapling, you can hit him with the hand, but you can't use the other side. It's the front and back, so we call long short. So anytime you turn your body sideways, in Wing Chun, this is called 3 gates or 6 gates, because you turn your body sideways, okay? Sideways. So, and typically when we spar, let's say he comes in and do something, right? Right, go ahead, right? So we engage each other, and then right away, maybe he ducks and grabs me, right? Right. So now we are engaged in wrestling, in grappling. So you typically go from long distance and then quickly end up into close quarter grappling distance, okay? So those are reality of combat. So there are most of the art today focus on those two ranges. So heaven, and then we call this earth range. Okay, let's say you're going for leg takedown, right? This is earth range now. So Wing Chun is that third space. It's that transitional space. some system, right? You see a clinch, maybe Muay Thai, elbows, knees, but they don't really stay there long. Okay, so when Chun founders, they discovered that this mid-range space is kind of unique, right? So at this personal space, both of my hands can touch my bones. And guess what? My both hands can touch my knees, both legs, right, are still be able to kick. So both hands, both feet can use simultaneously at this distance. So that's kind of unique, number one. Number two, if he punch me, well, I can still strike, right? Oh, right, I can still strike. But, of course, I can kick. But guess what? Easy takedown too, right? So what if, okay? Right. So this is called trapping. Okay, at this closer range, it's naturally that you can grab. You grab the hand, grab the legs. Okay, you can do some kind of stand-up submission. It pushes me, right? Boom. This type of combat submission is not to control the guy, but to hurt him right away. So that means that this range, you have the combat skill. Okay, you have the kicking skill, you have the takedown skill. You have the striking skill. It's like the sport of Sandan. That's why we like Sandan so much. Kicking, striking, takedown. Very, very realistic for applications. Okay. So the second characteristics of Wing Chun is we have kick, strike, takedown, and submission. Both hands, both feet simultaneously. Okay. And being in the middle range, if something happened, I can still have the option to move back. Or if you want to come in and engage me with grappling, okay, so we can still be able to prepare that, right? You know, when Chun, we have three ranges, heaven, human, earth. Let's say he grabs and boom, right? Boom, and give him shoulder block. Okay, if we come into hip, the same thing. Heaven, human, earth. Right, this is heaven, come down, I knee him. And then I do a hip movement for a takedown. So heaven, human, earth, heaven, human, earth. This is heaven, earth, human. Right? So we have this heaven, human, earth concept in the original older system of the church. Okay, so those are the characteristics. Why we stay at this range? It's not a style. Style is me, is the individual. Right? Darrison has a different style, I have a different style, but we train the same art, so our expression might be different. So as a teacher, I cannot teach you my style. I can teach you the system, the art. Okay? Well, my teacher, Grandmaster Yacht, okay, always go after the system, don't chase and copy the style. Okay? So this is kind of the reason, okay? So those are some of the things we cover, and then we talk about the theory and concept earlier, right? So one of the big concepts is all this mechanics is for Wing Chun, or technical knowledge is called the gates theory, okay? G-A-T-E, gates, the doors, okay? So right now, I'm standing straight up, which is normal, natural for any human. Squaring up is natural, being upright is natural, being rooted is natural. 2 legs, 50-50 weight. So this is why we have sitting top. Sitting top, when we open, from the beginning all the way to the end of the form, we don't do anything different than straight up, square up, being rooted. So this is the core of what we mean by center. So center is not just center line. So then you have this core established, but then the space in front of you, you have heaven, human, earth. Okay, you got high level, mid level, low level. So you got heaven, human, earth. You got right, center, left, right, center, left, right, center, left. So the mechanics of the human fighting, what is natural is what the Siddham teach. Upright, square up, and then be rooted. And then the battle space in front of us is 9 gates. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So for me to optimizing my human form, right, we need to have this skeleton. Straight up, square up, being rooted. And then you need to be aware of the 9 battle space. That is the attack I can use to enter my opponent's space, and that is the space they can enter to attack me, right? So we don't chase the hands. Like if he punched me, I really don't care where the hands is, but I know what gates that enters. Then I simply occupy that gate. For example, if you throw me a round punch, right? This is the gate he enters, so I occupy this gate. Right? I'm not looking for his hand, so if that was a fake, he pulled his hand back real quick, right? My hands are still here, so that means my position is still good. I can go on offensive right away. So this is what we mean, don't chase the hands, occupy space. Okay, so those are some of the concepts we covered. So if you have more gates in the human distance, you have more advantage in both of the position and structure. This is what we call time and space. Okay, so long range wise, this is good because I set up my body sideways. I can intercept. Okay, if he comes in. You notice I kind of smack him or box out him. This is a technique we covered earlier. We didn't change the range too far. Too much because I know I'm still in heaven. So maybe my counter would be a punch. We call it jab. But it's the way. It doesn't look like the boxing. Jab is just a human straight knee punch. But they tend to be long range. So it's not like, okay, boxing punch, fight this way, then you fight that way. There's no look to sort of fighting, okay? Because fighting is formless, right? But what this is 3-gate lead jab, lead punch. Why do I do that? Because I'm at this distance, right? So my distance is still correct, my structure is correct. Now, what if he really come deep? Oh, now I actually pop his elbow that closed the gap before I was popping his hand. Now I quickly readjust my alignment to squaring it up. Before I was sideways. So now I have 9-gate versus 3-gate. So look. And my counter is right there. Okay. So all the strike is there, kick is there, okay, submission is there, quick takedown is there, all of that. So that is what we call 9 gates, okay, versus less. Okay, so those are some of the concepts we cover. So we cover the center, the concept of what is Wing Chun, and then the gate theory, and how do you apply that. And then we cover mostly, give you a good vertical punch, understanding the structures, and then we did Paksa, okay? So when I say punch and Paksa, those are techniques. And I also gave you the details on the mechanics, right? Now, if you have a tool, and you train it correctly, over time you get the skill. So the skill set is a separate department. So if you learn a technique, but you don't really train it, Bruce Lee said, don't be afraid of someone that knows 500 techniques, but be afraid of someone that knows 3 techniques but done it 50,000 times, right? Okay? Because when you train, it becomes part of you. You train correctly with the right mechanics, it becomes part of muscle memories. Okay, so that means, okay, skill has to be developed, cultivated over time. That's why we call what we do Kung-Fu. Okay, so let's talk about striking and kicking, elbows and knees, okay, forearms, strike, all of that. Those are striking skills. Then, like what I did just now, pass out, or if you throw me a curve, I could just become the views out. Those are bridging techniques, bridging cues out, which is characteristics of Southern Shaolin Kung Fu. The Hung Guard is very good, so I let you fight. Bak Mei, White Crane, they all have good forearm skills. This is called cues out. So those are skills of Wing Chun. So don't get confused. You have techniques of Wing Chun. Make sure the mechanics is good. You have concept of Wing Chun, then you have the skill set. So we cover the striking, kicking skill set. We cover bridging skill set. So today's main topic would be Chi Q. Chi Q means sticking bridge. So how do you stick people's bridge? If Garrison throw me a nice fast jab, right? Don't hold out there, right? Right? Fast jab, right? If I catch your hand, that means what? Kind of slow. Fast. Okay? Now, even if I caught his hand, okay, this hand will come right away. So you don't try to catch a moving hand. Okay? So if you grab it right, you close the gap, get real close, and then you get a clinch, and then you work your technique. But you don't work your technique as he's kicking and punching you. You try to really, then you might get hit or get kicked right away. Okay? So how do we bridge the gap? That's why we have Q-Sao. Q-Sao is a way to make the bridge. From the bridge, we cross the bridge and then make the connection, try to capture its bridge. Okay? So, when Chun being a close quarter fighter, it doesn't make sense if you're not learning the graphics in Wing Chun. You say, well, my teacher don't teach it. Right? Well, that is exactly the reason. Maybe it's the teacher, right? So it's not the art, because the art, based on most of the lineage I come across, especially the older system of Wing Chun, the grappling skills are very, very good, right? You know, the wooden dummy, first move and assist, right? Right. So the first movement is this. Right? So, quickly. If you look at that sequence right there, right, he threw me a punch. This is called Tongso, so that means bridge. It's not any particular technique. I want to make sure I bridge him with the structure. Once my structure is better, for example, I can punch him now. Now, if this structure is good, I can just follow straight through and then already breaking his center line. That's what the wooden dummy teaches. First movement, right? So first movement, you're taking a good structure, you strike, and then you can grab. Okay? So this strike here, that's what you see, but it's actually not so much of a strike, it's a neck crank or neck coming out. Right? So for example, let's look at the other hand. You punch. Right? So from here, as I reach to break his center line, this hand could be a strike, but it's already taking his structure away. So if I crank his neck, he's going to go wherever I take him to. So those are grappling moves, right? So, if there's grappling moves, there is anti-grappling moves. So let's kind of look at those first, right? So Wing Chun is about efficiency, right? So if I show you a bong sound, it's not just used for deflection. It could be used for striking, it could be used for breaking a wrist, but it's the same mechanics, okay? So let's look at this, right? Park out, he punches me, boom, right? He's far away, right? Same park out, but now I change my technique, now he's closer. Yeah, but what about if he's grabbing me already, right? Let's say he's wrestling, he's grabbing my hands, right? So park is a quick release technique, right? Anytime he puts the hand on me, right, boom. That's a quick release technique, right? He put a hand on me, boom. So park style can be used for creating a bridge, for striking, but it's also very effective in anti-grabbing, right? So anytime people grab, park style could be very effective, right? So let's look at some of the basic techniques here. Okay, so you have a situation, somebody grabbed you. Well, maybe my hands, by talking to him, say, hey, stop, and then suddenly he grabs me, right? So park could be used right away on his elbow. Why do I want to hit the elbow? But most people, if you tell them to, okay, they just kind of hit the hands like that, right? So watch. If he hits my hand, this is heavy. The energy goes here, right? And this will fold from here. If he parks my arm, where this hand is free, now I can hit him here. But if he parks my elbow, it controls my whole arm. Okay? So heaven, human, earth. So So that's why I don't want to block here, because if he's a Wing Chun guy, his elbow will be flying over now, right? Okay? So I want to block the elbow. So block, you see how his arm in control, and then I took his facing on my way, he can strike right away. Right? If you want to follow up with some come down move, that's okay. Right? This foot sao here is really for come down. So tan sao, foot sao, bong sao, the three pillars of three basic hands of Wing Chun, they're actually grabbing techniques. Okay? It can be used for others applications, but they're actually for come down. Okay? So Park sao, fall into foot sao, come down. Right? This is kind of pressing. Right? So how about our lower hand? Okay? So this gate is open. You know, I don't want to yank my hands. Remember, talk about time, space, energy, right? If I yank my hands back, now I created more space, so it's going to take more time for my hands to come back. And that's not Wing Chun, because you wasted time and space. So here, I realize the gate is open here. So I need to cover this gate. So by bringing my hands up, it covers the space in front of me now, and also create an awkward leverage for him. So this is simply a tan sao. Right? So if you understand tan sao is about going forward, right? It watches by pressure, and we create a quick release. Right? So if you look at this situation, tan da can be used for tan da. It could be tan pa, right? Or tan, now I use my foot sao, grab, and then double foot. Right? It becomes a wrap against a quick wrist lock, right? Okay, so this, again, all the movements in the system is based on concept, and then we have skill set. So we can use tan sao for striking, we can use tan sao for bridging, we can use tan sao for wrist locks, right? So what do you mean tan sao for striking? Right? So if he punches me straight, and my structure is good, my tan sao will just follow straight to his eyes, his throat. Right? So it's called active tan sao. If I use my other hand to strike punch, then this will be passive tan sao. Right? Punch. Right. Passive tan sao. And then, first, I want to demonstrate it. Tan, foot, arm break. Okay, so you have Park sao, tan sao, foot sao, how about a bong sao, right? So if you look at this side here, this is bong sao. Okay? If he punches me, if the energy is weak, I go straight in. But because he's strong, he punches me strong, and then I need to parry him. That's when bong sao comes out. That is what we call, the nature of bong sao is what we call secondary techniques, okay? If he punches me, I go like this, then that becomes block. It's not efficient and it's hard. So typically, structure is bong sao, and based on his energy, if his energy is weak, I go straight. If his energy is strong, I fold, becomes bong sao. And then I follow up. Okay, so that's kind of like the bong sao technique. But that same shape, if you grab me, same bong, my elbow comes over. Again, this creates the pressure on his wrist. It becomes a quick release, and then there's a strike. Right? How about arm lock? Same movements. Right? Let's say I give him a quick distraction, flick to the eye, boom. Now I capture it, he won't escape. Now this arm here, still doing a bong sao. Okay, so it's the same movement. So that same mechanics I can use for wrist lock, parry, and follow up with quick strike. So it's kind of like multi-purpose. So again, the efficiency of the art, hopefully everyone starts to see, right? So you have basically the scenario, okay, this opposite hand grasp, his left hand grasps my right hand. Okay, so earlier we did this, it's the same side, right? Left hand, left hand. Then you can do tan sao on the outside. Over here, you can do tan sao, you can follow up. So now it's the same side. Okay? So you're only going to have those scenarios, right? Either cross hand or parallel hand. So let's look at the last one here. So this is parallel hand, left hand, right hand. Watch. Time. Why do I do this first? Cover my space, then build a quick strike at the same time with these techniques. Okay? So how come I don't strike you first? But remember, you have to assume if somebody's going to grab you, they probably know what they're doing. If you deal with a high-level grappler or Tai Chi guy, they're very sensitive, right? So if I grab Darrison, and he didn't take care of this grip, and then he would go about wanting to kick or punch me. Anytime you're ready, you can kick and punch me. Right. I sensed that, right? I wasn't looking at him, I was talking to you guys, but anytime I grab him and he make a move, right? I sense that. That's what we do Chisel. That's what Tai Chi guys do pushing. We have sensitivity, so you need to take care of the grab first. So somebody grab me, this need to take care of first. Okay? So those are kind of anti-grabbing system. When very simple, put a hand on me, right? Toss out with the trick. And so we went through right hand high, toss, right hand low, on, and then opposite hand high, ball. Same no hands, time, do it. And then if you want to add the submission, the mechanics is still the same. Right? The mechanics. Pa, distraction, focus on. Capture, distraction, time, focus on. Alright, okay. Distraction, wrong sound, press. This is actually coming straight from the Puji form, our third advanced form. We have elbow in 8 different directions. Okay? So this is straight, we call it cup down. Okay? Right. So this is the straight down. The low, same. Okay? Cover space, tongue, build, then you can follow up with all types of submission. So, grappling is, okay, there is capturing skill. And one of the basic drills that we do in Wing Chun to develop that capture skill is called lock out. Okay? So hopefully that gives you some idea. There is a lot of grappling in Wing Chun. There is escape, anti-grappling, there is submission, and then there's takedown. Okay? And then there are capturing skills so I can grab and hit. So this is one of the skills that we give you is capture skill, and that is lock out. Okay, so let's look at lock out. Okay, so this is part of the grappling skill development. Okay, so the hands up. Right. Sometimes the hand is too high or hold it out too far, and give you an opportunity to knock it away or to take it. Right. So if we were sparring, right, sizing each other up. If his hand is just kind of holding there, if I use a high energy pass out, I can knock it away, which creates an open. Okay? That's not going to knock him out. So it's going to create my follow-up. Okay? Or my other option would be, right? Lock out in Cantonese, lock. It's like a jerk. You don't really holding onto it. You quickly grab and pull. So I do it is like pull and punch. That's kind of like the type of energy, pull, punch. Okay? So we're going to do this exercise step by step because it gets pretty extensive in the lock out drill. Okay? So Darrison's going to do, okay, let's do the right hand first. He's just going to lock my hand. Right. Okay? Right. Now you notice that he didn't pull me in, right? Like I'm pulling him in. Now, if he's a grappler, what would you do by pulling him in? Right. Show me your wrestling skill. Right away. That's what grappling would do. We would grab you and pick you up right away, right? So you don't pull people into. You notice how he does it. Actually, he's turning me away. So the last saw is, in Sinatao, you have this movement here. This is a guy that you send the energy out. And from here to here. Lock, here. Okay, so this is just a step one. We're just gonna lock back and forth. Right. If his energy is quick, then he should move me at least one step. Right, okay, so all right. Okay, very good. Now, what if I want to grab as a distraction and I want to hit him? So that means I'm probably going to have to guard the punch. Okay? The natural reaction is this time he's going to punch me with the grab. Locked on. All right. Okay? Okay? So people grab your hand, and when you grab, and as I'm losing balance, that punch will come. This is called lockdown. Right? So we're going to add that lockdown into it. Okay? We're going to do back and forth again. So there's and go again. Now you notice, okay, the energy got to be there to move me. Okay? One more. All right. Right? So if I don't want to get hit, I put up a guarding hand. It's called Tong Sao. Okay? Tong means structure. But if I put up a hand, then we get contact again, right? Then he can grab again. Right, so now you start developing reaction and so forth. Okay, so let's do that follow-up. Right. So, okay, watch me do it. So first one, right, lock out. And he grabs, he defends, I pull this hand right away. Okay, so as I'm looking at you, right, watch, right? As soon as he blocks my hand's gonna react. So this is the sensitivity behind the drills. Watch again. Let's do this side again. So here, boom. But if he blocks again, all the technique comes out based on reactions. So I don't have to look at him. Most of the technique later we practice when Chun blindfolded. Right? So this becomes lockdown. So on the defensive hand, you're learning it's called Wushu-Kungfu guarding hand. Okay, so let's look at those again. Let's start from this side. Okay. So basically that's it. Right, so for me, I want to develop a good reaction on the guarding hand, and now I'm not going to kind of give it to him, let him have it. So I'm going to stabilize my center. So that means I can move but without losing my balance. So then remember, center is straight. So if you get pulled over like this, you've broken your efficiency structures already. Okay? So again. So I want to kind of maintain my structure. That's kind of, obviously, if I'm much bigger than him, he's going to have a harder time to maintain that structure. Right? So lockdown, you're going to work on the quick jerk and the punch. Defensive hand, and then the structure is what you work on as a defensive partner. Okay? So again, step one, which is lock. Right. Step two, defend it, and he locks again. Okay, so what we're going to do with step three, you start seeing the creation of bomb cells. Okay, so for example, if he locked down, and this hand I defended, and then he pulls again, my bomb cell comes out. Okay, not because I wanted to. Again, it's because of efficiency. Okay, so watch again. Okay, stop. Right, just stop at the punch. So this hand's already out, but because of his reaction, it's going to pull that again. Then same hand blocks, and then you will see here. You see ultimately the drill look like this, but the drill look like this. Like this. Okay. So my third set needs more practice, right? Right. So lots of right. So this is different lifestyle drill. You can hit high, you can chop, you can hit low, okay? Based on different techniques, right? So ultimately, this is what you see a lot in the Chun. But how do you get there? It's basically I'm taking you through step by step. Okay, so again, step one, just lock. All right, step two, I give him a guarding hand, he's gonna lock twice. And then the bonsai comes out. Now you notice like moving backwards, okay? When Chun is like grappling, a grappler will never kind of just not going forward. Their energy is always coming towards you. Right? That's kind of like really what you have to, when you train a grappler, that's something you have to really experience. That's part of realities. But you're not going to just kind of stand there. Okay? So step one, lock. Step two, lock down. Right. Okay, and for me, step three, from Wusao, Wusao. This comes up. Okay? So that is already a lot of techniques right there. You got the pull, you got the punch, you got the Wusao, you got the Wusao, and all flow. Okay? In combat, of course, it's a little bit more dynamic, right? So if he's hands up, right? So there, I give him distraction. Boom! The grab is a distraction, but I hit him already. Now, if he's big and strong, I couldn't turn him as easy. Right? So when I go like this, he's going to, as soon as that hand comes, right, boom, my other lobster will come out. Right? So lock is a quick pull and jerk. It is a way where you can actually now capture the opponent's hand, but it's not a moving hand. Now, what if he punches me, right? Punch. This is Wang Sao and this Tan Sao. Together, this is called Huan Sao. My other hand, so you can see. So this is called Huan Sao. Huan Sao, now I can really capture the hand. Now, punch fast, but don't let me capture the hands. Is that? Yeah, so. You see, if I miss, I'm still there. Because this motion, if you watch fighters, right, they cover. Well, guess what? We call this occupied space. When Chun recover, so if he punch and my intention is to capture his hand, well, I know I might miss, but at the same time, if I miss, I'm still good. But by then, I already closed the gap. So watch again. So in this case, I captured. But if he's fast, you see, I'm still here. Okay? Here. So if he does a 1-2 at me, right, that's good for me because he kind of sucking me into my trap. This is a trap. If he punch here, I got him, I can follow up, whatever I want to do. But if he pull that other hand, if he punch with the other hand, this hand is ready. This is straight out of Wun dummy move. Okay? So there are ways to train. How do you capture a moving hand? Okay, from a single lock to double one, and then of course, based off the bridge. So again, if he punches me, based off the top, right, I know the hand is going to come. And then every time the bridge gets closer and closer, then you can. Now, by the time you get close, it is just normal, and then you kind of have to expect that the grappling is going to take place. Okay, so that's why. The first technique of the Wun dummy, it's a neck pull, and then it's a neck crank before you kind of really go on to the next movements. Okay, so we went over some of the concept that there is grappling, there has to be grappling in close quarter fighting system like Wing Chun. Okay, so there's striking skill, including kicks and all of that. There's bridging skill. And then today is Chi-Kyo, which is the beginning stage of grappling. Okay? Now for combat, in Shaolin Wing Chun, we defend people from grabbing our hands, our head, our body, and our legs, because those are the entries. Okay? So I don't care if you're Swai Jiao, Jiu-Jitsu, or Judo, or wrestler, right? There's only 5 ways they're going to enter. They're either going to grab your head, headlock, or clinch, you can grab your arm, they go straight for a hug, or they straight for a lower limb takedown. So those 5 situations, we all train. So first we kind of teach the anti-takedown first, or anti-grab first. Then we learn how to capture, then we learn how to submit, okay? So as now you can see, this can be a grappling move, this could be a grappling move, this could be a grappling move, this could be a grappling move, right? So any type of movement in the form based on the skill set, you can unlock the applications, okay? Like this, right? Right? Like you see all this. This is all arm locks, arm breaks. Let's say you punch me, right? You see? This is, we call just simply a structural destruction, okay? So every time we finish a wind dummy, we always do this. But this is the same, okay? This movement is the same. Okay? If you punch me, right? So this right here is we call combat come down, because you don't have time to tap if I really go fast, right? So all these movements is there in the system. It's just you train or not, okay? So if you clench my neck, right, like a good grappler, like a Muay Thai guy, it's not just gonna hold onto your neck like that. He's gonna try to break my center, right? So that's why when Chun first concept is, I want to step, maintain my center. And then this movement here. So this is, you see it in Buchi. In Buchi movements. So there is a lot of application within the form to show you where all the grappling is. Right? There is a lot of kicks and sweep in the wooden dummy. Okay, so, but anyway, all of this is called Chi Kill. Now, total, there are 7 skill sets of Wing Chun. Okay, in this series, okay, as an introduction, what's most popular out there, you see people do kicking, striking Wing Chun. That's called striking, kicking, Sanda skill of Wing Chun. And then you have a lot of Pak Sao, Biu Sao, Tan Sao, Gan Sao, all this. Okay, you see people hitting each other's arm, that's Qiu Sao, is to develop the bridging skill. So today, the third skill set is grappling skill, right? So this first movement is clinch. Right? So this movement here is called high foot sound, but it's a nice neck crank, right? I mean, not a neck crank, a clinch, neck clinch, right? If the elbow fly out, it doesn't work, okay? And the other skill sets, okay, one of them I kind of cover indirectly, because when we start talking about stances or the footwork of Wing Chun, that is called Sun Fa. So you have this some body methods of Wing Chun striking skill, Wing Chun breaching skill, and then you have the grappling skill, okay? So there are a few more other skills, but how do we pull all of it together, right? We call that Chisel Twist. So you see how the Wing Chun start doing Chisel, you start rolling the hands, okay? Doing Chisel. This is to develop a sensitivity flow to bring all the other skill set together. But you don't fight like that, okay? So if he pushes me, right? You know what? In this split second, these two bushes come in contact. My Chisel skill would just comes out. But in practice, we start here. Right? Of course, in fighting, we start here. In our competition, right now, Wing Chun is part of the Wushu Federation's official competition events. But we have, I'm right now standing in this platform. Okay, there's a standard. This is a very small lei tai, as you can see. Okay, but it is the platform for Wing Chun. So for Wing Chun, this is the platform we use for my Sanzong or Wing Chun sparring. So my Sanzong, we start close quarter, we roll, and then one side attack, and then defend, and then when we get separated, and then we dish out, demonstrate the other skill sets, okay? So Chisel is a skill that require sensitivity, okay, redirection, force, then you add all the other tools to combine them, and we call that Chisel is the half point, so that means most of the skill set of the system, you need to connect it. The connection, the flow, that is the half point concept, okay? So hopefully you got to understand Wing Chun from its more of application skill, right? So if he throws me a punch, right, and then I do an arm bar, so you can't say, oh, wait a minute, Sister Meng, you just did jujitsu. Guys, arm bar is arm bar, okay? I mean, if there's fighting 10,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago today, people would know how to do an arm bar. It's not like you have a trademark. Every time you do an arm bar, that's Japanese, or every time you do a vertical punch, that's Wing Chun. Right? They all are based on mechanics at the right time, right space, right energy. That is what we study on the art of Wing Chun. Okay? So Wing Chun is about efficiency. It gives you an understanding of using less time, less space, less energy to kind of filter your techniques. And if you do that, then everyone mechanics will look like Wing Chun. So don't go for the look. Understand the concept and train the mechanics. Okay? Now, with that said, I think we have 10 minutes.
Yes, Sifu Meng, we have 2 questions from the attendees. Would you mind answering those questions now?
Sure, but I was gonna, since I'm at the headquarters here, this is also next door to Wing Chun Museum. I'm just gonna walk the camera, and then give you a glimpse of our Wing Chun Museum.
Okay.
And then, of course, I can answer a question at the same time.
Actually, maybe one of the questions might be relevant to this. This is from Abbas Munawar from Kuwait. His question is, did Grandmaster Muay Yacht have his own Wing Chun system or style?
Okay, good question. Now, everyone has, okay, you have to understand, number one, there is the art, which consists of the science, the theory, the concept, and all the techniques, right? So that is the art, the science. But when a human expresses that science, it becomes a style. So that's why my teacher learned from Yip my Sifu Muay, but I also learned from my teachers, Kung Fu brothers, like Yip Man's son, Yip Zing, Yip Chun. So I studied Wing Chun from Yip Zing, Yip Chun, and then studied from my Sifu. And I have another Sifu in Hong Kong. How come all of them are different? Because when they show it, it's their style, it's their showmanship, it's their expression. But my teacher was very wise. That's why he separated. He said, hey, Benny, when I teach you, Wing Chun is based on this system, and then here's the principles. But when you express it, that's your style. Right? So that he makes it very clear. So if he asked me that question, yes, Muay Yacht have his own style, but when he teach, he don't teach his style, he teach the system based on the concept of Wing Chun. That is what I try to explain.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, if you see the background, this is actually one area of the museum. If you don't mind, why don't you pick up the camera? Okay. So, like here, we kind of tell you where Wing Chun started. It's back in 1644, okay? When the nomadic people, the Manchurians, they came over the north and took over the Ming dynasty. The emperor killed himself. And then the Chinese continued to fight back. They formed a secret society, okay? So the legend is that 5 elders escaped, but actually it's not 5 persons. It's 5 secret society, okay? So, and during this time of war, they created new art. Remember, at that time, who was creating Wing Chun? They were the top fighters. You got the military people, you got the Shaolin warriors, you got the all the people want to defend for their country. So they know everything. So how do you improve something? They want to make it more efficient. So therefore, they created Wing Chun. Okay, this legend of a girl that learned from a nun that actually is borrowed from White Crane's oral tradition. Because Wing Chun, it was a secret code for the secret society to overthrow the Qin dynasty, restore the Ming dynasty, right? So if you look at the name here, Wing Chun, which is the girl's name, Yin, means to be discreet, to be secretive, wing, praise, or talk, Chun, spring. So the secret code is to be secretive, keep talking about the spring, which is the return or rebirth of the Ming Dynasty. Okay? So maybe next time we can give you a little bit more comprehensive explanation of Wing Chun history. Legend have its own purpose, but if you're going to study history, you need to know the facts. Just like when you're doing a freestyle form, you can express yourself however you want to express your style. But when you're going to defend for your life, your movements has to be true to the science of the principle of time, space, energy. I think you say there's one more question.
Oh, yes. This was another question from the same person. His question is about the 5 flags. Does every single one have its own style or system of Wing Chun?
Actually, yes. Earlier I talked about it was not the 5 elders, right? Those are those are really legends, but those figures represent secret society. We located 3 of the flags. 2 of them are Wing Chun, and one of them is Southern Prime Mantis, okay, which is not real Prime Mantis. It's a secret art that have really nothing to do with Prime Mantis because they kind of created the name to hide their true identity. So the 2 other flags, we're not sure if they have their own unique martial art. But 2 of the flag, the red flag, the black flag, are the origin of Wing Chun that gave birth to all the Wing Chun you see today, including Grandmaster Yip Man. Right? Now, Yip Man was a great teacher, but he was, it was way past the secret society era, which happened in the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s. By the time Yip Man really showcased the Wing Chun, the world is already different and changed. There's no more need for secrecy, and the system has already changed and adapted and modified already.
Great. Thank you very much. It looks like we just have about 1 more minute if you wanted to wrap up the session. Okay,
great. So hopefully I gave you guys some good introduction of Wing Chun, understanding its techniques. Okay, but how do we develop the skill is through the drills, but then more importantly, make sure you understand the mechanics and then the concept. Ultimately, it's the concept, the principle that keep the art pure. You don't want to follow the person's style. I broke my fingers, right? So my tonsils was always like this. So all my students start having a finger like this. So I start wondering, why you guys do that? And then they later on, they find out, Sifu, because you're doing that. So this is kind of a funny story, right? Hands are supposed to be all fingers squeezed together. So here's the system, here's the style. So which one you're going to follow? You're going to follow the system, okay? And you are the style. So with that said, good luck with you guys, okay? Any martial art is good. Just go deep and then have friendship with other martial arts. Thank you for this opportunity. I had a lot of fun. Hopefully I gave you guys a challenge your thinking and created some new ideas.
Great. Thank you so much. Sifu Benny Meng.
There's it. Thank you, my third son.